I think we have spoken quite a lot about the fact that we need a new European governance. The economic governance we're seeing today is not something that we want. The six-pack and so on, and I think you referred a little bit about it in your intervention as well. So I was wondering, what would be your recipe for European governance for a more fair and equal Europe? What would be the main issue? What would be the most important issue to achieve this?
That's really a big issue. First of all, I mean, Ronald was already introducing the ideas of an investment plan. To think in not salami tactic terms, I mean, to take every country and to put a finger somehow on a wound, and so somehow to say you have to save, and you have to do this, but to do it together. So I think the first and the most important thing concerning economic governance is not only to talk about how to control each other. I mean, it could be also done in the way to say, okay, show responsibility for each other. So somehow this is already the right approach of joint cooperation, but to find joint European solutions. So the future of European economic policy should be, must be, in order to be successful in the mid and in the long term, to think about joint investments. So, I mean, you all know this, but we have really a couple of huge projects. The European Union even wrote down in the Lisbon strategy for 2020. So we have a couple of goals we really should want and have to tackle. That's the question of innovation, that's the question of the employment rate, that's the question of fighting poverty and the prevention of poverty. I mean, we have a couple of goals on the agenda which need then all together in the joint economic governance, as we should take it on board, also to have huge project jointly. Or with other words, economic governance means not only to put a finger on the wound and to say, okay, you have to get rid of your administrative structure and you have to do this and you have to do that, but jointly to tackle, the German word is Konjunkturprogramme, programs to invest jointly for the future, based also, and I think we haven't talked about that today, but that's also one of those major assets of the European system so far, taking into consideration the asset of the social services, of public social services, and how to invest in them. So that's one huge point. We in the S&D group push and push and push and try to convince others to take on board as well.
Structures, as Ronald was talking about this morning, and I was wondering what else could you do as a politician, as a minister, the Belgian government, to kind of strengthen collective bargaining institutions and make sure that they are respected, and perhaps increase the role of the social partners and particularly collective bargaining?
Well, the role of social partners in Belgium, at least, is already very strong, and we're very pleased with that. We have a very high level of affiliation in trade unions, and we think it's a good thing. Trade unions are also partners in the management of the social security, which is a very important role for them in the one hand, also a source of power for them, which implies that they will keep and can renew the bargaining power in the society, and this is something that I would also support at a broader scale. I will repeat my. I tried to present this as a slightly like a joke a few minutes ago, but I really repeat my plea for a good understanding of automatic indexation and why this would be a very clever mechanism at European level. There are two institutions we're very proud of in Belgium. The one is automatic indexation, the other one is compulsory voting. Again, compulsory voting, which is something which exists only in 3 member states, Luxembourg and Greece and Belgium. And the Czech Republic also has automatic indexation, my neighbor told me, so it's probably true. And I really, using this as a flagship for the European socialists, saying, well, there are some member states which have this mechanism, let's study it, let's demonstrate it works. It hasn't impeded on our productivity. We have one of the highest productivity in Europe, despite or thanks to this mechanism. It hasn't produced disadvantage in terms of wage competition with other European countries. It is a demonstration that we can combine a strong role for the social partners, collective bargaining, high level of wages and high productivity in the same time. So let's study it, let's demonstrate it works, and let's try and convince as many people as possible to follow in the same direction.
Society, but it's also the fact that bonuses are now back to pre-crisis level. They are just as high as they were before, and I think that's quite incredible. If you consider the way that banks have failed, and yet they just continue increasing their bonuses. I mean, where is the link between their performance and the pay? But anyway, I was wondering a little bit of, I mean, you gave some ideas of what we should do, but how do you address this trend of increasing income? What are the exact measures that we need? And I was thinking in particular of Paul's proposal that we should actually have maximum wages, which could be controversial. And I was wondering, how do you see that? Do you have better ideas of what measures that should be taken in order to decrease the inequalities we are seeing now?
Well, it was the figure I quoted of about rewards for the people at the top of our economy have been part of the generation of debate that goes around an organisation in the UK called the High Pay Commission. We have a low pay commission written into law which sets minimum wages, and trade unions and others got together to set up a high pay commission to look at what we do about high pay. So there are a lot of proposals about what you can do in the report of the High Pay Commission, which came out earlier this week. I think one of the big problems, however, is that the massive remuneration that goes to people at the top of society isn't just about high pay. My worry is that almost any method we use to constrain high pay would be evaded. I mean, these people, unfortunately, I'm not sure exactly how clever they are, but the one thing they are clever at is making money for themselves. And I think we need to address not so much simply the end product, which is the high pay that they receive, the high remuneration they receive, toxic though I think that is. I think what we need to address is the model of the economy that produces those rewards, and I think that's far more important than merely putting an artificial cap on anybody's particular remuneration. And that's why we think that measures such as financial transaction taxes, such as reforming corporate governance about how people's wage levels are decided and so on, shifting the rewards that society provides for those engaged in productive activity as opposed to unproductive or socially harmful activity, like high-frequency trading and speculation. That's actually the way that we address the issue, because at the same time, that I think would control the excessive differences between people at the top and people at the bottom, or indeed people in the middle, whilst allowing us to make the case for higher wages at the bottom and effectively lower wages at the top. I think it's the structure that's the problem, not the end result so much. I mean, the end result is obscene, but it's not, I don't think it's actually the end result that's the problem we need to address. It's the process that gets you to that.
Wages, but we also know that we can't devalue the currency, the monetary union. So my question to you is, where is then adjustment going to come from? If we don't want adjustment from wages, where is adjustment going to come from? And so what is the way forward in the monetary union?
Yes, I think what we have to do in the monetary union is to change the rules of the ECB. I think that's very important. At the moment, the ECB is not allowed to finance single states. The single states have to finance themselves by the private market, by the financial market, and that's a very single neoliberalistic experiment or model. All the other central banks in the world are allowed to finance the states directly. And I think this rule has to be changed. From my point of view, that is crucial to change the rule of the ECB and to allow the ECB to pay the member states of the Eurozone. That's the first step, or the main step, and another step, important step, is to come to a common fiscal and social policy. I think that's the second big problem. We discussed it twice or three times in the Econ Committee, in the EP. We discussed about why in the USA or in Germany we don't have the same problem. In a way, the structure of Germany and the USA is comparable to the EU, because Germany has this Bundesländer, the states, and the USA too, and the states of the member states of the USA or the Bundesstaaten in Germany have different economic power, but they don't have these problems as a financial market like Greece or Portugal and Italy and Spain and Ireland. The common position in the econ is, the reason for this is that we have in Germany and in the USA a common fiscal policy and common social policy, and that gives the states the possibility to fight inequalities in the different regions, and that we don't have in the European Eurozone. Every country is responsible for the social policy and for the fiscal policy, but responsibility for the money policy is concentrated in Frankfurt and the ECB. And there is no direct link between the ECB and the single states, and the single states have only to react on that what in Frankfurt is decided. And I think that has to be changed. But
I would like to say two things. One is that as ETUC, we also want more Europe, also on the wage issue. But let me be clear on that. We want more European discussion on wages and collective bargaining, but we want to do it ourselves. We do not want the European Commission to be involved in that. That is the official point of view of the ETUC. Again, you can read that in the Athens Congress. So what we are proposing to do is to reinforce and strengthen our own internal coordination of collective bargaining, so that we can ourselves drive this process, identify which member states are doing the wrong things, are undercutting each other wages, support those members in other member states which want to go on the offensive for wages, defend their wages, and support them through mutual European support. So yes to more Europe, also more Europe on wages, but our Europe, trade union Europe. That's the first thing I would like to say. The second thing is on what message could be given to the overall PES convention. Well, I think that one key message is to say that Europe needs an alternative economic policy, Europe needs an alternative monetary policy, Europe needs fair wages, not wage cuts.
We also have to reverse the trend of increasing inequalities. I think that came across very strongly. The only two issues where there seems to be some differences in opinions was on minimum and maximum wages. So I think this is an issue we might want to come back to at another occasion. With that, I would like to thank the speakers.